Thank you, fellow debaters, our judge tonight, and our audience tonight for coming out and listening to our debate. We, the government, propose the first resolution to be debated tonight. That is that we are voters in the 2008, our judges, the 2000 voter in the 2008 election, whether or not he should vote or not, based on the roughly 61% rate that we saw the last election. Our argument will be yes, he should vote. Does the opposition find any objections to this? No? Let's proceed. In arguing for voting, we have to talk about the idea of democracy first, and that's how we're going to set up, in my 7 minutes, how I'm going to set up this whole debate. That is, first the arguments for democracy, and then the arguments for the idea of voting in general. Give you more of a macro and then a micro scale. So first, let's look at our history as a species. When the will of the citizenry is neglected, political and economic and even violent turmoil can emerge. Just look at our American Revolution, the French Revolution, and the many kings and emperors of old. And even now, look at African and Middle East dictators now. They usurp power for no legitimate reason, along with various natural resources, and more often than not, they leave their citizens poorer, sicker, and overall in a worse state than when than before the dictator came to power. But not just for dictators, but any kind of government that neglects the will of the people is bound to have some kind of a breaking point, simply because the citizens are what drive the economy. Citizens are what a country is. And so that's the idea of history, and how the idea of democracy is dependent, or the idea of democracy has a strong historical basis. Second, the idea of self-governance, that it forces citizens to contemplate their relation to society rather than being a passive member of a large collective. That is to say, one must ask oneself, how should we as a group be governed? And this leads into the idea of the social contract, that if the citizen is an active member of government, an active member of society, and actually has a vested interest in how he's governed, and he actually can choose that, then more often than not, the more you'll see less turmoil, more stability, more progress as a people. And this leads me into the third point of democracy, and that is stability. Democracies are, without doubt, the most stable form of government that we've conceived of. And this relates back to the idea of our history, that that no two democracies have gone to war with one another. And that's simply the fact of the matter. Now, that was the arguments for the idea of democracy. Now let's get into the idea of voting. And the idea of voting is that the governed can change the governor, which is a powerful concept in light of our history. You see kings and warlords being appointed either by birth or by divine creed, etc. There was no recourse for the aggrieved citizen to find some kind of remedy for any kind of complaint that he might have against his overlords, to put it rather medieval. So this is a novel concept, that the governed can change the governed. That is, that people are in charge of their own destiny, which, given the story of America, is really what democracy is about. It is about being in control of our own destiny as not just a citizen, but as a people. Second, this actually is more specific to the resolution of the 2008 election. given the economic and global concerns at the time, you had the economic downturn, you had 2 wars going on, you have problems of health, climate change, education, all different kinds of problems facing not just people in the United States, but around the world. And with the United States being the sole superpower left, global concerns are American concerns. And this seems as good a time as ever for citizens to be able to speak their minds and be able to elect leaders that reflect the will of the American people and how the American people wish to go forth and solve these problems. And lastly, on somewhat of a poetic note, the voting public should be an educated public. In a Jeffersonian democracy, the whole idea is that vigorous, reasoned debate promotes progress. In a Darwinian competition of ideas, the best ideas and the best solutions find their way forward. And this provides an incentive that we all want our country to be as best as it can. And what better way of doing so than presenting our ideas to each other and judging them on their merits. The founders called for this argument to sustain a democracy. Sadly, I believe that the opposition, in whatever arguments they might be trying to make, would try to extinguish the fire of this debate. And unfortunately, as this fire dies down with the numbers of active voters, so will our democracy.